Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Global Goddess Fest, where men and women are tuning in from around the world to receive education, connect with global leaders, and gain inspiration on creating the life of their dreams. So today we have KamalaDevi. Thank you so much for being here. And we just got rave reviews from some friends of mine that said, you have to get this woman on. She's a perfect fit. So glad you're able to join us this morning.
It's a pleasure. I'm really excited to be part of this kind of synergistic happening that transcends time and space.
Yeah, and being able to just bring this information out there for men, women, wherever you are, you're welcome. Come listen, come learn, and broaden your perspective. Yeah. So for those of you that are watching, let me tell you a little bit about KamalaDevi. So she is an internationally recognized sex and relationship author and coach who is going to be breaking down and demystifying and teaching some of the basics of the shaman method of sex magic. So she's an author of Polyamory Pearls, Sacred Slut Sutras, Don't Drink the Punch, co-author of Sacred Sexual Healing. Her family stars in the Showtime series Polyamory, Married and Dating, which definitely want to talk to you about that. She's also appeared on Dr. Drew, Ricky Lake, Tyra Banks, and the award-winning documentary Sex Magic. KamalaDevi travels the world as a faculty of the International School of Temple Arts, and she's also the founder of San Diego Tantra Theater and Polypalooza. So all over the place, and also lucky for me, she's in my hometown. Kamala, her mission is to awaken artists, healers, and visionaries from around the world to become love leaders. She's currently co-authoring 52 Fridays with My Bitch in the Pleasure Bible while enjoying a rich home life in San Diego with her husband of over 15 years and their 10-year-old son. So I love... I want to hear more about the 52 Fridays with My Bitch in the Pleasure Bible. These titles, I got to tell you, I'm like, when I was reading them, I'm like, okay, like just the title is captivating. Like what I want to hear more. So excited to have you here and really curious. Yeah.
Happy to share. Yeah. 52 Fridays with My Bitch is a catchy, erotic fiction. So it's really a narrative about my relationship with Roxanne De Palma. She's my co-author, and we decided to immortalize our love affair in it's based loosely on the true love story between us as co-authors and all of our erotic escapades. But it's one of, actually, I think I've got a handful of books right now that I'm shopping, that I'm in the process of wanting to get published. And writing's a passion of mine, because I think transmitting these teachings and getting them out there, I feel really privileged being, in this pioneering lifestyle, having been exposed to so many masters, getting all these teachings. And then it's like, how do I share these stories, these teachings, in a way that's accessible? And I think sometimes telling, whether it's, don't drink the punch is actually a fun adventure story. I just think Jesus, Muhammad, like all the best teachers taught in parables. So a lot of my writing is like, how can I transmit Tantra in a way that's like fun to follow and not like tons of boring scripture and or esoteric practices that are inaccessible in the modern day. So during our time together, I want to know what teaching is most like down to earth, practical, that I can offer during this festival.
Well, I guess let's just like rewind a little bit, and if you want to share from your own words, what is sex magic?
Happy to. I'm really interested in magic, independent of sex, like magic as this transformative energy. So people say, I don't believe in magic, or magic sleight of hands, and it's actually like this alchemical process, like cooking baking a pie is magic. You know, you've got the elements of fire, and you've got the earth that comes in the wheat, and the water, you know, the moisture, and it's like this perfect combination, and it creates this delicious pie. And so there's, you know, magic's all around us. It's this alchemical change. And often what it is too is when like an idea comes, or something from a dream, a vision from the unmanifest, and then we make it manifest. We realize, whether it's the Global Goddess Festival, like this was once just an idea, now here we are. That's magic. It's making it real. And sex magic is when we take the primal life force, the most immediate, like embodied energy. And by immediate, I mean it's like orgasmic energy is what brought us all into manifest form. And we take our own arousal, our own eros, our own orgasmic energy, and we infuse it with an intention or a vision, and then we actually start to manifest that and realize it in the world. Mm-hmm. And so it's an alchemical practice that happens at multiple dimensions. In fact, sex itself is very transcendent. It's not just, you know, two bodies rubbing together in the friction. It's basically this whole emotional, spiritual, psychological, you know, process. And orgasm itself creates a doorway where, you know, life is birthed, like this cosmic doorway that opens an orgasm, where life, like a portal for life to come through, can. And so can our intentions, our dreams, our visions, our hopes, our prayers. And so that's the essence of the definition of sex magic.
Mm. And so you were saying, you know, you got exposed to different mentors in these teachings. Where would you say like this is originated from?
It's a great question, because I am not, like, my lineage is broken. It's not a direct lineage. And if you look in early esoteric writings, in biblical, I mean, there's definitely indications of it in the Kabbalah, you know, so you can go, and there's pre-Christian, and there's deep Indian teachings. We've got Taoist teachings in Nepal. There's the shaman teachings, which are, you could go back to cave wall drawings. And so I want to say it's cross-cultural. And a lot of my practice has been, studying very eclectically. And I think probably the most famous Western teacher of sex magic is Aleister Crowley. And his, I guess, controversial practices. Aleister Crowley's like a really scary, dark kind of person. A lot of, people equate him with devil worship and say, oh, stay away from that. But like him right now, if you go to India, and the last time I was there, there's a lot of tantric sadhus who are considered like, they're doing black magic, or that's witchcraft, and so there's a huge mysticism and taboo around sex magic teachings. And a lot of the Agori teachings have sex magic in them. And so what happened for me, like, I'm a California gal, like I'm here in my beach house, and life is really very modern. And for me, delving into these studies, and sometimes I have done these esoteric teachings and practices in ashrams. They do take like dedication for cultivation of your energy, but it's not super relevant to my life. Like I'm a mother. I have actually 2 careers. It's like I've got this writing career, and I'm zipping all over the world teaching with the international school. Like, I don't have time to meditate for 4 hours a day, not to mention like hang out in graveyards. So a big part of my mission is what of these teachings are essential truths to all of humanity, and they don't need all of the superstition and the dogma and the ritual that was, in that culture necessary at that time.
So do you see that like as a general thing that's happening in the West? People kind of leaving a few of those extra teachings and morphing and creating their own versions?
Well, I celebrate the empowerment for people to let go of dogma and say, okay, wait, the church might have taught me this. The church has these wonderful values for community and for like prayer and direct, but I don't, this piece about hell and damnation, if I'm queer, like I can leave that behind because that doesn't really apply to me. I really encourage people to like know who they are and be true to that. And if any teacher has a pearl of wisdom, that they test it for themselves, see what works, and then live from that, like living truth, not from, because Aleister Crowley did it this way, then I have to do that too. Here's a fun quote. It's like, and I'm cross applying totally out of context. Buckminster Fuller, one of my, total idols, says that we are very innovative. Like when a shipwreck happens, as humans, if you're out in the water and a piano top floats by, it's like, oh, that piano top makes the best life raft and saves your life. But that doesn't mean that if we're going to make life rafts, we should shape them like piano tops, right? So unfortunately, a lot of people in religion, and this is not Buckminster Fuller's talking about innovation, and he's like talking about the architecture of the world. And I'm just saying, like in religion, it's the same thing. We keep taking like piano tops from way back when and saying, this is the best way to make a life raft. And really, we have to like look inside and be like, what is our true potential? And to let go of, just because it's tradition, we have to do it this way.
Totally. I love that merging of the quote. That's awesome. That's a great way to visualize it for sure. So what led you into all of this? I'm sure you just were experimenting in your personal life, but like, how did you decide like, oh, maybe I should be teaching this? Maybe this is so important that I need to make this part of my job.
Yeah. So that's sort of two questions, right? One is what led me to it, and that was this profound direct awakening. Just having the experience halfway through. Like I was a lesbian. I was in the queer culture doing a lot of queer activism, and I had this amazing direct experience of falling deeply in love with a man. And it was like having lifted the veil of these body, these meat suits, these body, and I'm like, wow, I'm seeing someone's hermaphroditic soul. Like I'm seeing that we're both God, goddess, every one of us. And I had that so deeply in that about a 2-year relationship in Hawaii, where she, they were my Tantra teacher, and we got into kink, and then and simultaneously polyamory. All of these things just opened to me because it was like, what does love do? Love explores and expands. And I was loving, the way God loves, which is really everybody. And so it was this profound awakening that I couldn't, after which, 2 years in Hawaii, couldn't go back to any semblance of a normal life. And then what led me to teach was actually just, you start living like that, and people around you are like, whoa, what are you doing? How, tell me how I can, have more bliss, more pleasure, more realization in my relationship and my sex. And so it's just the natural side effect of waking up is teaching.
Totally. Awesome. And then I kind of want to go back to the book as well, because I had a question pop up. What is, you said in this book that you're writing, the 52 Fridays, like, do you have a story that you could share with us from that?
Not, well, let's see. Okay, so since I proposed to you that I was going to be talking about sex magic, I'm trying to look and see if there's a lesson in there, because literally that book is 52 individual dates. So they're like almost like erotic short stories that are kinky and poly and wild. And so in terms of sex magic specifically, my one woman show was about the sacred prostitute. And that happens to be like a controversial cause that I feel very strongly about. Like, you know, you asked me, hey, how did you start teaching? It's like, I'm teaching because there's no one else, meaning we can't go on this corner to a strip mall like we can to yoga and start learning tantra or start learning sex magic. Like, that's not being taught out in the open. And the role of the sacred prostitute is to actually transmit these teachings embodied, because we can be like talking heads sitting on a video screen and being like, let me tell you all about, you know, and I'd love to do that. I actually want those of you who are taking the time to tune in to get a tool around how to practice sex magic. But before doing that, I want to say that you can't learn it in a book or by talking. You have to have this like embodied experience, and some of the only ways to really learn sex is by doing sex. And so I had, you know, done this one woman show about the role of the sacred prostitute in modern society and how she's gone, and that is during the climax of this play, I actually practice sex magic. So I take my orgasmic energy and I start to like connect with the audience, you know, breathing and moving, and I'm actually taking their prayers, their intentions. And it'd be like right now, if you're listening to this and you're desiring more like harmony in your relation, like maybe you're married and you want more harmony, or maybe you want like to be fully seen in your relationship. And those are just relationship examples. It could be anything, like wanting to be able to give your gifts in your work, you know, wanting to be able to reach people that are really truly magnetized to your message. And whatever your intention is, and if you set an intention, and then the sacred priestess would like literally take those prayers, and through her pussy and through her arousal and through her orgasmic energy, like circulating that, breathing that, raising her vibration. And we had drums and music and rattles and like, it was very ecstatic. Everybody was moving. Then there was a bringing that orgasmic energy into actual climax. And the practice was a tribute to Annie Sprinkle, one of my mentors, who had done this ritual like in 30 countries. Like she was like really bringing it around the world. And so that story, that particular one woman show, I could only do for a few days. Then my nervous system was like, whoa, that's a whole lot of intimacy with a whole lot of audience, and I'm done. And so I was like, you know, I want this teaching to continue. So I put it in that book, 52 Fridays. And the characters were like putting their prayers, and what they wanted was to have a love affair with each other and maintain their husbands. You know, right now I have a husband and Roxanne has her husband, and we wanted to, like, now we're 6 years into our relationship. We're like, what's it look like to be girlfriends, you know, who have husbands and continue to have harmony? And through that sexual supercharged ritual, I mean, I really feel we've manifested something fucking extraordinary. Yeah.
That's incredible. So how, I guess I want to dive into like, yeah, your personal life, and like you have a husband and you have a son. And so you guys are on this TV show right now, or has it already?
We had 2 seasons on Showtime, and right now you can get it on demand on Showtime, and also I believe iTunes. It's called Polyamory, Married and Dating.
So what was that process like? And
it was a and it's been a number of years now. So in some ways I feel like I'm a whole phoenix, from the other side of that experience. It was very intimate to be sharing like my vulnerable, like, hey, I'm jealous and I'm moving through these negotiations of how to have multiple lovers, to share my husband with, another woman, and who actually we were in a really rocky, rough relationship with, and to share that with unseen audience was an enormous, like, faith walk. Like, hey, I trust that I'm going to put this out there. I'm going to be misrepresented because they're going to edit it. I'm going to be misunderstood. I'm going to be misquoted, and that's fine, because there's a few souls out there that are actually going to see through all of the, whether it's their projections or the drama, and they're going to resonate, and they're going to learn something, and they're going to learn, and it's going to support media moving towards having more role models that are alternatives to monogamy. Mm-hmm. So I felt very committed as a cause. I'm very proud of what ultimately got produced and put out there. I'm saddened, though, on the toll that it took on my relationships and my physical health. And so it was a really extraordinary experiment. And so it was sort of like an extreme sport. I'm like, okay, if you're into extreme sports, doing a reality show is a great way to go. But on the other side of it, I feel like the books that I write, they take immense amount of like life force energy, and it's worth it because it's immortalizing, like taking these teachings, and then I can move on and teach other things.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And so with your son, did you always raise him in this really open environment, or how was that like? And what would you say to maybe other mothers that are curious about this?
Yeah. So, I mean, regardless of what your relationship style is, there are lots of other mothers who are like, wow, I'm doing like so it's Hanukkah right now. Happens to be, I don't know when you're going to listen to this, but right now it's Hanukkah, and I'm part Jewish, and I was raised in a family that had, in a neighborhood that had like there were no Jews in the neighborhood. It was a real upper class, middle class kind of white bread. And I knew that when I went to school, that part of me wasn't like understood, but I wasn't ashamed to be part Jewish. I just felt like, oh, that kind of makes me special. I have this other culture. And it actually, yeah, it really felt special because it was. And then I look at my son right now, like I literally we rode bikes to school today, dropped him off, and he's got like deep, awesome relationships with both school and kids. And even when he doesn't, when he's like having troubles, what happens, like the culture and the values that we're at in our home has no bearing. Like we're like every other family. Every family's got something unique, is how I feel. And so I look at it like, it's not about how many girlfriends and boyfriends mommy has. It's like, am I being honest with my son? Which is, honesty is a big value in polyamory. Am I being transparent where we're, like we're communicating, we're showing I'm being ourselves. I'm not hiding myself from him or from anyone else. And am I giving him like consent and choice around where and how he wants to put his time and energy? And all those deep values that are really core to polyamory are also how I do parenting. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it would be for me a big contradiction to be lying and hiding, my lifestyle from my son. But this Christmas, on Christmas Day, like my lovers and I are all going to Star Wars, and we're taking my son out. Hey, it's Christmas. Let's go to the movies. So.
That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing. I think it's just so cool to be able to be showing these alternative lifestyles. And I think, what you're saying about choice, like we all really do have the choice, and it's we're still keeping these core values that we have intact, and then you get to choose how you want to play with it and what life you're trying to create from it. So
yeah, this idea of like what life we're trying to create is the essence of what I want to transmit in this call. When we stop worrying about what other people think of us, and this is a key, this is really what it means to wake up, is to say, whoa, life is fucking short, totally precious, and it's up to me to live it fully the way I want to live it. And it's really profound, because when we come from that place of like, it's so extraordinary, how do I be extraordinary? Not try to fit in, not try to please everyone, not be ordinary, but like really, where's the magic in every moment? And then when we get like clear on what we want that to look like, and this is my challenge and my exercise for anyone watching, is like, all right, we're almost to New Year's. What are my goals in all the areas of my life? And some of the areas of your life you might be doing awesome. There's might be like tons of confidence in the area of, it could be community. It's like, look at this global goddess community. Like we have so much abundance. And maybe in some areas, maybe it's finance. I know that economics are really hard right now. You might be like, wow, I'm really feeling my, esteem is low, or I feel stuck, or then you ask yourself, okay, what do I want to create? What would really be rich? And from a grounded place, not like what would look good to my neighbors, or what, do I think I'm supposed to be successful, but from a grounded, deep place of like, if I'm bringing value into the world and getting valued for it, what would that look like? But more importantly, what would that feel like? And then when you get that feeling of like, wow, I'm really being valued in the world, and that's being received, and that's going into my bank account, and that's paying my bills, and I'm not having to worry because I'm, generating a lot of value, and that's coming back, and I'm actually, being able to invest in the things I value. And when you get into that flow, that place of like, I feel really abundant, and you start to infuse that, like you create a ritual in which that feeling, whether it's around money or relationship or your health or your, I healed myself with this, or your family, like doesn't matter, but the feeling, if that dream was fulfilled. And then you take a ritual, and the ritual can be really simple, like lighting a candle, drawing a bath, but taking your time to really start to bring it into your body and bring it into all of your body, like deeply penetrating or being penetrated by these feelings. And then what's important though, because the ritual part, there's a real distinction between, I'm just self-pleasuring and I'm thinking about my goals, which is, there's no harm in that. It's better to do that than self-pleasure and think about whether it's porn or some wild fantasy of non-consensual, whatever. It's like, okay, that might be a raising vibration. But the extraordinary is with the sacred ritual. And that's where the setting, like whether it's that candle, but there's a raising of vibration, which might be dance, might be breathing, might be like a type of a yogic movement that cultivates your energy. And this is where, sex magic has a whole range of degrees, because you can do it very simply, very essentially, or you can spend a whole life cultivating more and more ka, life force, prana, and then you have even more potent power to actually ecstatically infuse it with your intention, to where when you come, or, this whole like orgasmic merging happens, it's as if it's here, and it opens a portal, a doorway for ease and flow to happen in the direction of everything you desire.
Yeah.
And what's incredibly valuable, because you might learn all this in books, when you're in that energy, afterwards, the afterglow is super gorgeous because that's a real magical time to affirm and to see it and to make it and to bridge it into reality. Because a lot of times people will come and then they'll fall asleep, or they'll like the ritual's over, or they'll break that energy and go do something like, check Facebook. It's like, no, this is a real sacred time, the going into it, the coming out of it, but then taking a next step towards that. Like, oh, if I'm wanting to bring more value into the world and I feel that, now that I'm in this really high vibration, how can I give added value to my clients? From that vibration, you take one step towards that goal, and it's astounding how if you take a step towards God, God takes 10 steps towards you.
Definitely. And I feel like sometimes I like to call this like owning your orgasm. Like really, you can use it for this very like personal and intimate relationship that you have with yourself, and then you can join it in with partners. But I really do believe that, starting that with yourself is just like so incredible, and you can start aligning things in your life outside of your sex life. It's not just to have good sex, right?
Yeah. And it is, the self-love practice and being self-activating and being in this self-fulfilling place makes us so attractive to others. And it also helps because then we're not as attached. It's not like, oh, I need someone else. If I'm going to manifest this, I need this, or my clients to do that, or because that's really part of the illusion. I mean, to be fair, it's a partial truth, right? We're not islands. We're tribal beings. We totally need each other. And especially around sex, someone can say, oh, I want more sex. And being self-pleasuring is not ultimately like it, unless you're celibate, it really is not the ultimate fulfillment. But it does generate and attract greater levels of fulfillment when you come together with others. So yeah,
that's great clarity. Would you say that there was a time in your life where like you felt like it wasn't working out, and like how did you overcome that? How did you kind of step over the line and find that self-love and find this practice?
Yeah, I would say, I happen to have a history. I love to just blame it on biochemistry and be like, oh, well, both my parents were, had their mental instability, and I've had my, deep bouts of depression. And I love when I can be like, oh, we figured out my serotonin isn't, balanced, and right now I'm perimenopausal, and we are multidimensional beings. So we have to take care of our neurochemistry for sure. But there's so much more than that. There's, hey, we're emotionally sensitive, and we have to, I personally am a very, ironically, I'm introverted, which is why I write. It gives me that time, like, okay, it's me and it's source, and it's like, but too much time in all the social events. I'm constantly doing festivals, constantly doing conferences, which I love, but it completely depletes me. And as an empath, it's hard. It's hard on my nervous system. So I go through phases that would look, clinically one might say, oh, it looks like you're in a manic phase, looks like you're in a depressive phase. I've got these cycles in my life. And my last really deep, painful crash was after the reality show. And I went through a year and a half where I actually couldn't function. I was severely impaired. And we didn't know, I had to change everything, diet and everything, but I was having seizures. And so it was, this is extreme situation. And as much as I'd be like, okay, let me just do sex magic. Like, this is not a fucking panacea. There's no one answer to everybody's problems. It's really about, okay, what in the holistic picture of the complex beings that we are, how can we raise our vibration on every level? And a lot of times that means slowing down, that means looking inward, that means honoring, the boundaries. And sometimes it's just like information overload. We live in a very fast-paced world, and we need to fucking retreat. So, I'm not of this school that's like, all right, once you wake up, it's all hunky, cakey, dory, ecstatic all the time. And I happen to be in an extraordinarily ecstatic couple of years. It's been, I went through a whole year last year of I had no suffering. And I was like, is this possible? Like, I'd reached a whole new fucking high. And yes, I started to cling and to grasp. Like, I wanted to be like this all the time. But then I was like, I finished a book and I started to get sober and started to feel again. And part of it's just life is waxing and waning like the moon. It's especially as goddesses, that tide that comes in and comes out. And right now it's winter, and we have to winter, and then when it's spring, we spring. And so I do feel like it's wonderful to have the tools and gather these reserves and continue to grow, but to also flex and flow with the varying, moods that move us as women specifically.
Definitely. It's a good reminder that we're all on this wave, this journey together.
It's humbling. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and just really appreciate you coming and sharing your stories and sharing your lifestyle with us. I really do think it's so broadening and so mind-opening, and it's not something that we can find most of the time on TV. So I think that's amazing that you were able to, give your life for a little bit of time to that purpose of sharing this information to everyone.
I want to thank you for bringing women together and for this amazing vision that you have, and really the humbleness it takes to call in people with different perspectives and to just really listen to their stories. So thank you. I mean, sisters connect through storytelling, and I love that you're listening. So thank you.
Yeah. And if you're watching and you're interested in this, KamalaDevi is going to be giving all the viewers a free library of tools on polyamory, tantra, and sex magic. So.
Yeah. So really quick, so this is the sex magic book, which has the shaman method of sex magic. I didn't go into a lot of depth, but it's got step by step. And so if you go to KamalaDevi.com, you can see, you actually get a free excerpt from this book, but more resources. And I would love to connect with you. So thanks for joining my mailing list. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we'll see you all really soon. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.